So I'll start this live stream here in about a minute. I do want to thank you guys for joining the live stream. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little introduction of our company, who I am, and then and what we do, and then I'll kind of open it up on the chats. I'll also go over some commonly asked questions. If there's not a lot of questions on here, I'll go over some commonly asked questions as well. But I will open this up so that you guys will be able to ask questions that you might have. But a short introduction about our company. My name is Alex. My father, Marc, started this company in 1995. Really just saw the need for the industry growing with the power chairs and scooters. And that was kind of right when Pride Mobility came out with the first Jazzy. My dad went to a convention and saw that there was this new technology coming out that was really enhancing the market, and he thought that was going to be an interesting thing. That would be a way of, one, having a business, but two, also being in a business that is a necessity for people, and that you can also do some, I guess, ministry type work in the sense of helping people out and answering questions, kind of like what we're doing today, outside of not just only selling chairs, but definitely being able to help users identify what's going to be the best and also be able to give out advice. So then in 2014, I believe it was, we started our YouTube channel, and now we have well over 3,000 videos out there. So we do try to have a good amount of videos of how-to videos. And although we know sometimes that does help directly relate to sales, we also know there's a need for people that can't necessarily go to a mobility shop and pay all this hundreds of dollars to get something just looked at. And so we do have videos out there across our channel that are how to diagnose a chair, how to charge batteries, how to change tires, tons of different how-to videos that, really do seem to help people, because we'll get lots of feedback back that tell us, hey man, that saved me a lot of money. Not having to go take it somewhere. I was able to see the fault codes. I was able to identify what the problem was. Or we have a lot of top 3 videos too of our personal opinion on products that we sell that we stand behind. And this really helps people identify, what's going to best fit their needs. And we also understand, hey, listen, we're not going to capture everybody's business that's watching our videos. Plenty of people will go local and shop local, but it's okay. We're still educating the people on what is out there on the market. And then in return, we understand that what goes around comes around. And so we've been pretty successful with our YouTube channel and having the ability to give out information like we do. But once again, we've grown this company from my dad, and then about 14 years ago when I graduated college from the University of Florida with a business degree, I came here to start helping my dad, and then we really started focusing on YouTube and just the different ways that the company is evolving. So that's a little short synopsis of this. My dad is retiring later this year, and then I'll be taking over the company. But once again, we're going to keep the same flow, not changing anything, of really trying to have this non-commission based type salespeople here, because we do believe that having a structure in that way is going to enable our salespeople to sell the best product that fits the end user's needs, not just selling a product that is going to make them the most money. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we know anybody can sell something one time. You can go anywhere and somebody can be a good salesperson, somebody can paint a good picture, but if that end user gets that product and it doesn't fully meet their needs, whether they need to return it, whether they are not happy with it, we understand that if we're able to really fit that person with the right product the first time, that goes a long ways. And that word of mouth in this industry, we know that is invaluable. So if we can have a handicapped user telling their friends, telling their loved ones, telling other people about us, that's the best marketing that you can get. I don't care how much money you spend on Google advertising or different things. One user to another user of recommending our company is by far the best advertisement dollars that we can spend. So I will open this up. I do see we have a few people in here that are watching this. If somebody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and start putting them on the chat, and I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. If I don't know a direct answer, then I can always, if you want to, you can shoot me an email after this stream, and then maybe I can do a little more research and find that out for you. And if there's not a lot of questions on here, I also have a lot of top questions that I kind of wrote down that we get frequently that I can go over in between, because we do have an hour here of an open floor. So as of right now, I do want to say, hey, looks like we have Nail and we have Bettman on here as well that had messaged in on the chat board. Do want to say thank you guys for joining us on this live stream. This is the first one that I've done. Figured this is a opportunity to either go over products that people might have questions on, people might have problems with a unit they have, and then also just some information. So however this goes, we'll see how it goes. And I want to try to kind of make this maybe into a monthly type thing where I take an hour of my time to sit down and open the floor up, because we do understand that not everybody can spend money and go research or go to a place to get something solved. And I might be able to answer some questions and help alleviate some costs that you might have. So yep, I see Fetman in here writing me, and yes, we did speak on the phone. I do remember we were talking about some permabills, so I do recognize that name. So thank you for joining this channel. And like I said, I don't see any direct questions yet on here from anybody in the chat board. So I'll start with just generic common questions that we get, and I'll keep checking the chat. And then as somebody writes a question on here that they might need an answer to, I will then be glad to try to respond accordingly. So once again, if somebody has not, I see people are joining as we speak. So once again, I will leave that board open and I will keep checking the questions on the chat and try to answer those to the best of my ability. And once again, we do have an email. That's info@marcsmobility.com. So if you do have a question, do put it on there. And then if it's something that I was not able to answer during this chat time, you can always shoot us an email and we'll do the best of our ability to get back to you as soon as possible. So I do actually see a question that came through. And it was from a question asking about the programming of the new permabills. So yes, permabill has been getting more difficult on their chairs, and they've changed a lot of things over the years to try to, unfortunately, force you to go to a dealer, because there is an app now that you have to have a dealer login for the newest programmings. So I'm not sure, but this question it asks, the question is, how do you program the new permabills? I got a new one and I cannot get into the program settings by holding the power and the horn button. So typically on permabills, to get into the settings, and you're limited of what you can do, but there should be, if you have a screen display, like an LED display, the top left-hand corner would have a blue line, and if you press and hold that button down, sometimes it has a little gear symbol next to it. If you press and hold that down for 3 or 4 seconds, then a menu will appear, and you are able to go in there and do some settings, whether it's like color display, your gauge reading, and different things, but actual physically programming the speeds or setting parameters on the chair, that does have to be done now, unfortunately, with the new app that you have to have a dealer login to do, and it's like a Bluetooth type connection. Now, if it's not the very latest joystick on the unit, then you can typically hold down that settings button, hold the top left blue button down for a few seconds, and the settings will pull up. So if you do, I see that question on here. If you would, when we're done with this, like I said, you can send me an email to info@marcsmobility. Maybe send me a picture of your joystick, and I'd be able to tell you if it's the very latest electronics or if it's maybe last year's electronics, and then what you'd be able to do. So hopefully that was able to answer your question some. And then, like I said, send me an email after this, and I'll try to help you figure out what you're trying to do with your particular chair. The next question I see on here from Rocky says, I've been looking at your products. I would like to get a fast foldable mobility scooter. I'm 6'4" and I need leg room. So yeah, that is typically a problem that we see on the market, is going to be leg room. Unfortunately, they don't always design chairs for taller people, whether it's scooters, whether it's lift chairs. That is a little bit of a restriction. I see you wrote me and you're asking about the Triax. That is by far the fastest folding type scooter on the market. There's nothing else that goes, when I say nothing else that we sell, because I do want to preface that too. If I say nothing else, there could be some random Chinese brand that we don't sell, but from the products that we sell are the ones that we stand behind. So on all the products that we sell, that Triax Sport going at that 12 mile an hour speed is by far the fastest scooter that we offer that folds down. Now, I would mention to you, if you do watch our video on the Triax Sport, I try to drive things around and give a reference on size-wise. Like I'm 6 foot, about 210 pounds, so I try to mention that in a lot of videos so that people can kind of get a reference of what I look like sitting on the product. Although I'm only 6 foot, you're 6'4", so you can already see when I'm sitting on it. My knees are sitting a little bit high, so your knees would be sitting even higher at somebody at 6'4". That's the only thing that's going to go that fast. I mean, there's some products that might go a little bit quicker that fold down. Like there's a nice one by Pride Mobility now called the Super Portable. That's a good one in the sense of you can kind of kick your feet out on front on the fenders, but I think it tops out at about 5 miles an hour. So if you are trying to get to that 12-mile-an-hour speed, unfortunately, the Triax Sport's the only really good option. Now, I would say there's a few downsides to it. It is a front-wheel driven unit, and with front-wheel driven units, the issue that I saw is if you're not on a hard-top surface, like let's say I drive a lot of stuff out here in the grass, there's not a lot of downwards weight on that front wheel. So if you're going up a hill that's a little bit wet, or you're going in grass and there's not enough downwards force, sometimes that wheel will just spin. So I would love to speak to you more, Rocky, about kind of what you're looking for. And so yeah, Rocky, if you would, when we're done with this, once again, shoot me the email to info@Marc's Mobility, and we can kind of discuss a little bit farther of is speed your primary concern or is comfort your primary concern? Because unfortunately, I don't think there's a one size fits all based on somebody at 6'4". But definitely shoot me an email after this, and I would love to speak to you on that unit as well. And then once again, I see somebody on here writing, yeah, you're trying to do the speeds and the turning for the Permobil. Once again, I did ask you to email me that. So email me a picture of your joystick, and I would be more than happy to let you know. I can tell just based on when the screen is on which electronics you have. Because some of the older ones, not older ones, but not the newest electronic, there is a dongle that you can plug in line, and then that will allow you to change some of the settings as well. So circling back on the Triax Sport, the seat is only adjustable of what it is. So it's on like an X frame, how it raises up. There's no way of adding a higher seat. Now, obviously, you could put some other cushion on top of it to make you sit higher, but there's not any adjustability like from the factory, because it does fold down flat and then raises up in this X-frame type position. So there is not really any adjustability besides adding a cushion to physically make yourself sit higher on that unit. Once again, if you're new to this stream, I've answered the questions so far that are over here in the chat. Feel free to throw any questions that you have in here, and I'll keep checking back. I'm going to go over just basic questions, just to kind of go over some things about it. A really common question is going to be is, hey, what's going to be the best unit for me? And that is going to depend on, we go through some simple questions that are going to be based on your height and your weight and really where you're going to use it. Because scooters in general are better for outside. Power chairs in general are better for inside. Now, a power chair is a joystick-driven type chair, and a scooter has more like the handlebars, like a tiller. But there are some exceptions with inside that rule. So with a power chair, you're going to have different drive configurations. So you can have a mid-wheel drive is typically the more common drive configuration for a power chair. That's where your drive wheel is going to be directly centered inside. You're sitting directly over the drive wheel. And a mid-wheel drive is going to have the smallest turning radius. So that is good for inside and smaller spaces. Whether you have a mobility van, you want to drive in and pivot to the driver or the passenger seat, mid-wheel drive is always what's going to be recommended because it's the easiest to make that turn. Downside to a mid-wheel drive is you're always going to have swivel wheels in the front and the back of your drive wheels. So the problem with those is if you go outside on a non-paved surface and you go to turn, well, your caster wheels start to rotate. And if they rotate in a soft surface and they have you dig a little bit, it can cause your drive tires to spin. Now, there's some things we can do about that by loosening some front suspensions on like Quantums. We can add knobby tires to some of the mid-wheel drive quantum chairs that will give you more grip when you're outside. But if space is not a concern for inside, you have a relatively open floor plan in your home, and you do want to use something inside and outside, then I'd recommend going with the front wheel drive. I'm just mentioning like higher end chairs right now, but there's plenty of basic standard chairs out there. So for example, a Permobil M3 is a mid-wheel driven unit. That's going to have the tightest turning radiuses. An F3 is their front wheel driven unit, and the front wheel driven units are going to track better outside because the concept is going to be the main tire that's going to try to climb over or go through any type of surface is going to have your motors behind it. And so you're not having those caster wheels in front. But I would tell you, compared to an M3, which is relatively 43, 44 inches in length, on a mid-wheel drive, typically your length is what you're going to need to be able to turn in that radius. A front-wheel driven unit is typically going to take about 3 to 4, maybe 5 inches more of a turning radius. So once again, on power chairs, yes, you can go forwards and backwards and you can make 3-point turns. But if it's just somebody like, hey, I have a kitchen and I only have 45 inches between my sink and my like oven or however your kitchen's designed, and you want to turn in that circle, well, yes, if you don't want to make a 3-point turn, then a mid-wheel drive is going to be the best option for you. Where scooters are typically better for outside, but they lose turning radius. Now, Pride Mobility in particular is my favorite brand out there, which makes the Quantums as well. They are starting to design a lot more scooters now with this easy turn technology, which has sensors in there, so your wheels can turn almost 90 degrees, like almost completely at a 90-degree angle, which then enhances your turning radius. They did come out with one on a Victory 10, and there are a few other products like the Elite Traveler 2. And if you stay tuned to our website, they're actually going to have even a newer version of the Elite Traveler 2 coming out on Monday. And then they're actually going to put that technology on more of their scooters. Like they had it on a 0-turn 10, they had it on a 0-turn 8, but they got rid of the 0-turn 8 when they came out with the Elite Traveler 2. But once again, they just added it to a Victory 10, which is a 400-pound weight capacity scooter. It is portable in the sense of you can take it apart, but it's still heavier components. But I think that's the next step of them of, okay, how do we get scooters that are good for outside, but can still navigate like in an aisle in a shopping plaza, or whether you go to a theme park and you're trying to go in and out of the long lines. That easy turn technology is really going to be a game changer. And I can tell you, I do know of 2 new products that are coming out from Pride that are going to have that soon. They're just not released yet, so I can't mention those on here. But if you do stay tuned, whether it's the next live stream we do, or if you look on our website here in a couple weeks, I'll probably even send out a newsletter as well. So if anybody has not, it's on this here now, is not signed up to our newsletter on our website, I recommend you go ahead and sign up, because whenever something comes out as new, I always buy the product, I do an unboxing video, and then I do a full video review, and I typically then upload that to my newsletter as new product releases. And when something's new on the market, I typically also include discount codes on those new products. I do see a question on here from Fetman that says, what's the difference of a stretch air cushion and a leatherette and a mesh back? So leatherette was the original back that came on Permobils. It's kind of what it sounds like. It's a leather type cushion. That is the best for wiping it down. So it's a solid type cushion. Then they came out with the mesh. The mesh is more of a, well, it's mesh basically over the cushion. So it's a better breathable type material, but it is has a little more friction on the actual back cushion as well. So depending on if you wear a shirt when you're in a chair or not, a leatherette might be a little more comfortable. But if you are intending to use it outside, do know that's going to be a little hotter, and you're not going to have as much airflow on your back, so it might create you to sweat a little bit more. And the stretch air is kind of a combination of the two. It's not really a wipeable type material. I mean, you can clean it, but it will absorb some spills or sweat. The cushions can come off, so you can clean those, but it is the next technology. It's almost like if you imagine like a stretchy type of gym shorts. It's kind of that type of material that is breathable, but it's also not going to create that friction kind of like mesh did. So I think that probably answered your question, Fetman, on kind of the difference in the materials. So once again, if you're new to this channel, if you have any questions, put them over here on the board, and then I'll just keep going through the generic questions that we get from a lot of people that I wrote down ahead of time. And then once again, I'll be checking in over here on this chat line to see if there's any other questions that I can answer for you guys. So we kind of went over the difference between a power chair and a scooter and kind of what's the difference. I do want to circle back to that as well, because we do get a lot of individuals that might have had a stroke or only have the use of one side of their body. And so in those instances, a power chair is typically always going to be best because you can put the joystick on the right or the left-hand side. And you might say, okay, well, you can drive a scooter with one hand, but the concept of a scooter is typically that push-pull type motion. So if you don't have one hand and you're driving it outside and you start to hit different terrains, it is a little bit harder to be able to steer a scooter with just one arm. So typically people that have a stroke or have a limited ability, or it's an amputation or a stroke, a power chair is always going to be the first thing that we recommend. Now, if they say they have plenty of arm strength and they can handle it, then that there are exceptions in everything. But in general, scooters are going to be better for outside, better for somebody that has control of both arms, and a power chair is going to be better for inside. Not always. I mean, they do make, like Quantum came out with an Outback, which is a true 4x4 off-road chair. It's a power chair that's not really designed for inside, because that Permobil or that Outback has such a big, powerful motors. It doesn't turn sharp like on a lot of other power chairs. So that would be an exception to the rule. That's a power chair that's going to be better for outside than inside, but there's nothing better on the market than like a Quantum Outback or a Magic Mobility X8. Those are the two top of the line power chairs for true 4x4 power. I mean, those can go through. I've tested them before. I've gone on the beaches here in Florida. We've gone in the woods. I mean, I really tried to test those units to see if I could make it fail. And I mean, I went to Anna Maria Island, which is here near to us in Florida, and they had a hurricane that came through about 6 months before. So they were piling up all the sand, and I was able to drive an Outback through, I'm talking 6 to 8 inches of like softest of pushed up sand. And I mean, it plowed through it. So if anybody in here is really looking for a chair designed to go in the woods, go into snow, go on the beach, definitely shoot us an email on the Quantum Outback or on the X8s. The Quantum is the newest one on the market, so I don't have any of those used here yet. We can't order a new one, or we can get a new X8. But we do get X8s from time to time here to our shop that are used, because that's been on the market for a long time. Next thing is going to be is going to kind of be weight capacity. So unfortunately in the market, a lot of things that are folding power chairs are going to be tailored to somebody 300 pounds and under. I can tell you that Pride is working on one. Golden Technologies is working on one. There are a few different folding power chairs that are coming out that are going to be more in that 400-pound weight capacity. I'm even pretty sure I'm going to MedTrade next week. So this next live stream we do, I'll have some updates, some new stuff coming on the market. MedTrade is based in Dallas. It's for 3 days. It's a medical trade show that has all the largest providers there. And they typically put their upcoming products on the floor to show people, whether it's lift chairs, scooters, power chairs. I mean, there's a whole range of products that are there, but that's what those products is what tailor to our market. So right now, currently on the market, the best folding power chair for somebody up to, it's $395, but I'll just say up to 400-pound weight capacity, is the City 2 Plus by Travel Buggy. Fantastic unit. We sold hundreds of those, and I've really not had any issues with them. And I have people that tell me they're $395. Realistically, they're probably more, because a lot of people don't always give you an accurate weight over the phone. But even at that, I've never had a complaint on one not working for somebody. It's a great unit. The seat can recline back. The foot plate can extend out. It comes with spacers that you can put in between the armrests to get, I think, almost 23 inches in between the armrests. So it is by far the best unit on the market that is up to 400 pounds. But I can tell you, Pride and Golden Technologies are both working on that, because that is kind of the trend in the market. Everything's kind of going to what folds, what folds. Obviously, we sell on our website lifts, whether it's an inside lift or a hitch mounted lift that can transport a lot of products as well. But for straight folding on the market right now, that is the best one, the City 2 Plus. And then I do also believe that I've heard that Golden is coming out with a scooter that I should see at MedTrade next week. That's going to be a folding scooter as well. It's not going to be fast like what somebody else was looking for on this chat, but it is going to be a scooter that folds down, that I believe is going to have a 400-pound weight capacity as well, because there's not a lot out there that's folding scooters that's 400-pound capacity. They're more portable. And so the difference between kind of a portable and a folding unit is going to simply be, portable is something you take apart in a few more pieces, where folding, it should be kind of all in one piece. Maybe on a few take the seat off, but pretty much everything should fold all in one. So those are a lot easier for people that are traveling, whether you take an Uber or a Lyft or something like that, you know, slide in the back of any type of vehicle instead of having to take it apart. Now I can say portable, you get a better bang for your buck, because a portable unit might weigh 120 pounds and come apart in 4 pieces, and your heaviest piece being like 40 pounds, where folding, they have to use a lot more carbon fiber and keep the weight down to make it all in one 40 pounds, or, you know, they have stuff now, power chairs down to 26 pounds if you take a few pieces off. But the cost is quite a bit more because the materials that are going into those items. So we do have videos out there. I think I have one being released tomorrow on our YouTube channel. That's going to be top 4 portable power chairs. And then we already have top 5 travel power chairs. We have a lot of different top 3s and top 5 videos. So if you are not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, you can always go on our channel, like and subscribe our channel. And then we have all these top videos that compare stuff. I have 24s, and now I'm starting to film 25s because, you know, new products are released from time to time. I'm going to jump back over here to the chat line. I have Zach that asked me, can you fold an M3 or an F3? There's not really any folding. I think the only thing, every once in a while, I've seen some of these units with like cane backs, which are more like where you would snap on a molded type back, whether it's a J-ion cushion or different types of cushions. I believe on some of those, you can get like a breakdown hinge that would fold the seat down forward, but the whole actual unit folding up, no, that's not possible. Really, the folding units are going to be smaller. We get a lot of questions too of, hey, can I get a seat lift on a folding unit? Can I get, you know, something that's 450-pound capacity on a folding unit? And so although there's nothing out now, I wouldn't say it's impossible, because as of 3 years ago, one of the lightest weight folding power chairs was like a Jazzy Passport, which weighed, I think it was 59 pounds. And now Pride Mobility just came out with a power chair recently called the Ultralight, which gets down to 33 pounds. So I do think they're working on a chair that's going to come out pretty soon too. I think it's going to get down to 26 pounds as well. So once again, things are trending in that direction. These manufacturers do listen. And I actually have a pretty direct relationship with these manufacturers and give a lot of feedback to them. And what I love most about, Pride Mobility in general, is they listen. You know, they are not always with the end user, so the feedback that we give them is invaluable. So, you know, this is a great discussion board like this when I get questions, comments, things like that. You know, and I meet with them. I'm meeting with them at MedTrade next week. So this is the time for me to be like, hey, listen, I got questions like this. This is kind of what's trending in the market. Here's some of the struggles that we get. And like, you know, even for, you know, the person earlier that asked, hey, what's good that's folding for somebody at 6'4"? You know, that's a question to them. Hey, do we make a folding scooter that potentially has an expandable floorboard space that would make the unit longer? Do we think of different things? Because such as the PX4, which is the larger unit that Pride has now, is not folding, but I know they also sell this in Europe and in other countries. They have actual different floorboard extensions you can add to it to shrinken it or to expand the length of the floorboard space. So that would be a good concept for me to ask them, how do you incorporate something like that that folds? I do know that everything, you know, that they hear knows it's trending towards that folding unit. So I do always stress to them, because you're not the first person, sir, that's asked me, what's the fastest scooter I can get? the most common questions we get is what's the fastest and what folds, what's the lightest. So they kind of know that too. It's just kind of waiting for the materials on the market to catch up to, you know, what they can put in a unit. And so I do know these companies are starting to go with like carbon fiber that's almost airline grade material. And that's how they're able to get something from 57 pounds to 33 pounds to stuff coming out soon that's going to be down to like that 26-pound range. So I always joked with the manufacturers and I said, hey, we got somebody that was 450 pounds that wants to go off-roading, that wants it to be 20 pounds. And, you know, 5 years ago, I would have laughed because there's just nothing out there. But once again, to go from 59 pounds down to 26 in a matter of 3 years, it is coming. Stuff is starting to come out on the market that's going to fit more of a need for people. So I think that kind of answered all the questions over here on the side. And then Zach, I don't know if you were in our channel or not yet when I first mentioned it, but you know, on our newsletter, I do buy pretty much one of everything that comes out that we sell, that we stand behind, and I do that video on it, and then I put them on my newsletter. So our newsletter is on the website. If you subscribe to it, basically you would get a notification. And if you sign up to our YouTube channel, and I think there's once you hit the subscribe button, there's a little bell symbol that pops up. If you hit that bell symbol, I'm pretty sure it emails you every time we upload a new video. So that's a pretty cool feature too. I want to stay in tuned on what we have coming out. Now, if you don't want to be over inundated with videos, we do post a new video now pretty much every day. So there would be, you know, quite a few notifications, but once again, I do put them on my newsletter as well a couple days after I film them. So then that way you'd be able to get discount codes, and you'd also be able to you know, see what else is new on the market. And then Rocky, yeah, you were writing back in on that Tri-X Sport being taller. You want to be able to get into the back of your Expedition by yourself. So, you know, obviously I know you said you want to stop at my shop. That's going to be the best thing, because then you can sit on stuff. You can physically try to lift it. You know, we do have some type of portable ramps for some different items. So, you know, there's even that super portable that I was mentioning to you earlier that might accommodate you a little bit better because it has an adjustable tiller in height. And something like that, you can stand pivot it, put like a bumper blanket on the back, and then be able to pivot it into your vehicle. I think the super portable with the battery removed is 41 pounds or 43 pounds, somewhere in that range. So something like that, you know, might work for you as well. Just wouldn't quite be as fast of a unit. But once again, stay tuned because this industry is ever evolving. And once again, when I do this next live feed a month from now, I'll have seen MedTrade. I'll be at MedTrade. I'll see all the products from all the manufacturers out there. So I'll be able to kind of give you guys an update on what I saw, what I liked, new companies I might consider picking up. But once again, I don't ever pick up a company and just throw it on my website. I'll order their products. I bring them in here. I look at them. I sit in them so I can give an honest opinion. But once again, I don't ever want to sell something that's made like junk that's going to have issues for people, because one, it's not good for me. I don't want to deal with problems all the time. And I know you guys don't either. Like the end goal is to get you a product that's a good price, that's dependable, that's durable, you know, all these things so that you're happy and we're happy. Because there are some companies out there that don't care and they'll just sell, and they'll make money on a 15% restocking and take stuff back in. But I think that's a terrible business strategy. That's not how I want to present ourselves. I want to present ourselves of asking the right questions to get the right product the first time. Like, because once again, that word of mouth, that recommendation is more valuable than anything else out there. Any other dollar value on marketing that you could spend is having a wheelchair user promote our product. Like when the Jazzy Air, that's a power chair that has a seat lift. When that first came out, we had a lady named Linda from the Villages in Florida that drove down and picked one up. I can't tell you how many chairs she's probably sold for us over time, because she's always on cruises. She's always around her neighborhood. And she's like, send me business cards, send me business cards. Wherever I'm at, people ask me and I give them out to everybody. And so somebody like her is a perfect example that we ask the right questions, we fit her needs, and now she's doing all this advertising for us without us even asking, because she's so happy with what she got. So I don't see any new questions on this board yet. So once again, I will go back And I will look, well, new question just popped up from Emma. It says, looking at the Jazzy Air, wondering how it is. Are you asking, Emma, like price-wise? Or are you asking, like, what kind of questions are you asking with how it is? Like, you want to know dependability, durability? What are you looking for, Emma? Performance. Okay, performance. So the Air 2 is a mid-wheel drive. They call it a mid-wheel drive. It's not a true mid-wheel drive where your drive wheel is dead center. So it's almost in between a front wheel and a mid-wheel, but it still has the front casters on the unit. Performance-wise, it has been a fantastic unit. I mean, we've sold 500 probably of those Air 2s. Couple things that we typically do when we sell Air 2s, we ship them from our location out across the U.S. fully assembled. So when somebody gets it, they don't have to lay on the ground, put screws in the bottom of the seat. There's one thing that I did not love about the Air 2, which we typically ask people if we can take it off before we ship it. And almost 100% of the time they say, go ahead and do it. On the Air 2, you can press a button on the joystick and then change the seat elevation. And then you press the button again and it goes back into drive mode. On the opposite arm, which they are getting rid of this function, but it still comes on it, it's called a buddy button. It's a button that you can press and release, and it will begin to elevate the seat. So if you don't want to stop your chair to adjust your seat height, you press that button. Problem with that is that has a wire that runs through the joystick, and then it goes down through your seat lift motor, down into the bottom of the chair and into your brain box. If you were to smash that button, which people do because it hangs off the end of the arm, or that wire gets pinched at any time, it throws an 8 flash code, 8 total lights across your joystick. And I do want to stop and say we do have a lot of videos that show fault codes. So if anybody's in here that has an issue, you can go right to our YouTube channel and look up fault codes, because we try to do a lot of different electronics to then help eliminate, what your potential issue is without having to take it somewhere. But what we ask people all the time is, I can get down in there underneath the seat lift and physically unplug that and never install it because you really don't need it, and then it takes away that issue. So I did have over time 3 or 4 users over the hundreds that we sold. They smashed it. They were in an elevated position. They weren't able to get out of their chair. They called the fire department. But that's when over time I'm like, okay, it's not needed. So let me go ahead and take that off of the chair. Overall performance-wise, I mean, it's the best standard power chair on the market with a seat lift. Although the seat does not swivel, it is by far the best, unit with a seat lift. And then your next question, Emma, was what speed does it go? It goes about 4 miles an hour no matter what seat position you're in. So either up or down, you still maintain the same speed. There are some units that when you elevate the seat, it does reduce the speed down to 1 or 2 miles an hour, but the Air 2 is not one of them. You do get to go the same speed at all times. Now, the ground clearance is not overly huge on a Jazzy Air 2, and we do get people sometimes that say, well, hey, I need to put some docking device on it to load it in my vehicle. I will tell you there are 4 built-in tie-down points on the seat base that you can strap the chair down to, or you can put a Q-lock locking system underneath it. There's 2 different locking systems on the market. There's Easy Lock and then there's Q-lock. Q-lock does not take as much space underneath the unit, but I will mention it does have to be a Q-lock if you want to put a locking system on there, and then it has to be a front-driven-in locking system. You can't back into it. Most people have one that you drive in forwards and then back out. That is acceptable with the Air 2, but it would have to be a Q-lock. The next question you had, Emma, on there was urban environment in the country. It's not really made to go on non-paved surfaces. So depending on the terrain, if you were to call us or shoot us an email, we could kind of dig deeper on what's your weight, what kind of terrain are we talking about. I would say if it's a compact ground, it doesn't have a lot of dirt or sand or, really, really thick grass, you'd be okay. And I kind of demonstrate that outside with a lot of my chairs, but it's like Bahia grass here in Florida. It's a pretty hard surface underneath it. That kind of stuff's not a problem. Now, in the country, if it had a bunch of potholes, things like that, I would probably say no. They do make a chair by Merit's that's not as high of a seat lift. That's called a dueler, which is actually a pretty cool chair. You can swivel the seat 180 degrees, and it allows you to drive as a front wheel driven unit or as a rear wheel driven unit. And it actually inverts the joystick by hitting a switch underneath the seat when you rotate it. So forward is always forward, no matter if you're driving on as a front wheel configuration or a rear wheel configuration, because rear wheel typically is the best for outside, but is the hardest typically to drive inside. So it only has a 6 or 5.5 or 6 inch seat lift on it. I'm not, it might be 5, it might be 6. I can double check that. But that unit would be a little better off. And then Merit's makes a Gemini, which is a rear wheel driven unit with a bigger rear drive tire, and you are able to get a seat lift on that unit as well. Now, seat to ground height's a little bit higher than something like the Air 2. But if you're kind of looking for something for outside, I would love to speak to you a little bit more, Emma, if you would shoot us an email to info@marcstability.com. And then I could kind of ask a few more questions, because maybe we find a basic Quantum that has a seat lift on it that we can add knobby tires to it, things like that, that would be able to better fit your needs. So I'd love to dig deeper into that question for you, Emma, and just get a little more information of, height and weight, where and kind of terrain you're driving it on, so I can better narrow that down for you. So I don't have any other questions over here on the side right now on my chat line, so I'm going to circle back to just generic questions over here. I do want to mention something on the market as well, that we try to do things the right way here at Marc Stability, and people ask a lot of times, is there tax, is there not tax? So that's kind of, we hired out tax lawyers here at our company to kind of go state by state and look into what's taxable, what's not taxable. And it's a lot of work, because what it based on was, you can sell X amount into a state, and once you go over that threshold, then you have to start collecting tax. Then there's certain states that if it's taxable, you can get a note from a doctor that states you can use the assistance of a power chair or a scooter or a vehicle lift and then get the tax reimbursed. Or if you have it at the time of sale, we don't charge the sales tax at all. There's some states that they don't care. Once you hit that threshold, it's always taxable. So there's not a one answer solves all. It has to be more or less where you located and where is it shipping to and what is the item. And then that would be determined on, is there sales tax, is there not, is there a way of getting a prescription? Because some items are classified as FDA Class 2 medical devices, some are classified as recreational units. So there are exceptions to that rule. So we always like to ask those questions so we can tell you, hey, here's the price, here's sales tax, here's, can you get a prescription for it or not? So definitely reach out to us and let us know, and we would ask those questions to give you a good answer ahead of time before you make a purchase on, is there sales tax or not? There are companies out there that I've seen that, although it irks me a little bit, but they'll just say, oh, there's no sales tax, it's a medical device. Once again, they didn't hire out a tax lawyer. They'll probably get in trouble one day when they actually find if they ever got audited, to find out they're just making an assumption and not actually done the hard work. That does take a lot of bit of time to set up your website correctly and different things. So you want to mention, we try to do things the right way here at Marc Stability. So other kind of common questions that we get to are, how should I charge my scooter or my power chair? That's a very common one that we get. And that's going to also determine on what type of batteries are inside your units, because there's really 3 different types of batteries. The most common for the last decade was sealed lead acid batteries. So it's a deep cycle battery that has advantages because it's probably the best price of a battery, but it can hold a memory. So on a deep cycle battery, which is standard on a Jazzy Air 2, which is standard on other units that we sell, those batteries are better if you drain them down below 50% and then fully charge them up. Now, battery manufacturers and even wheelchair manufacturers are not always thinking about the end user, because they'll say, well, hey, plug it in at night and don't unplug it till it's full to maximize the lifespan of your battery. I know, and just like you guys know, that's not always feasible. If you have a power chair next to your bed and it's charging, but you have to use the restroom at night, you have to unplug it and you have to go to the bathroom. So you're not always going to be able to do that. But what they do recommend is try to drop it below 50% and then fully charge it up. If that's the norm and not the exception, that's going to get your best range on a battery. Battery should last somewhere in that 2 to 3 year range on an AGM battery. We do sell batteries for pretty much all products on the market that you can go on our website under the parts and accessories and look at batteries or give us a call. The next type of battery is going to be a gel battery. So gel batteries typically come on high-end units, whether it's these outdoor off-road chairs or permobiles. Gel batteries are one step up from an AGM battery. They're a little more expensive. It's just a material inside the battery, but gel batteries don't typically hold a memory as long, but both cell lead acid, the AGM batteries, and the permobil like gel batteries, both of those, you do not want to drain those down and let them sit for 3 or 4 months without charging, because that's the fastest way to ruin a battery. I kind of explain to people as if you drain your battery down and it sits there for a while, imagine somebody pouring cement into the open space on your battery. Well, once that hardens up in there, your charger might say it's full, but if you only have this much of the battery of this size, it's allowing it to accept the charge. It will say it's full, but you might not get a mile or two before you start seeing your battery gauge dropping faster. So rule of thumb is to drain them down and then charge them up, but don't let them sit on an empty charge, which is hard sometimes because we have customers that have houses up north and down south, and like the snowbird concept, and they ask, what's the best way? I recommend if they can get a timer or something that can then, turn on once a week or something to top the battery off, that is good to do. Now, the third type of battery that is coming on the market that is pretty much on all these folding chairs, lightweight chairs, is lithium. Now, it's not the lithium that created all that stir when they first came out on these like foreign scooters, like mopeds that were causing fires. It's a different type of material of lithium. Lithium, it might sound offensive, but they call it a dumb charge. And why they call that is it does not matter what percentage of charge you have, you can charge it. So if you only have 5% of use, so your battery is 95% full and you want to top it off, go ahead and plug it in. If you're only 50% full, you want to plug it in, it does not matter, and you can unplug it at any point, and it does not affect the longevity of your battery. So lithium is more expensive because it is kind of newer technology. Obviously, the car industry, the scooter industry, more people are getting into lithium batteries, so that is kind of driving the price down a little bit on it. But I do believe in the next decade or so, pretty much everything's probably going to be switched to lithium. And a lithium charger actually charges at the full amperage. So a lot of these chargers are 2 or 5 amp chargers, or 2 or 3 amp chargers. And so let's say you have a 12 amp battery. Well, how it kind of works with lithium is you take your amperage on your charger divided by the amps on the battery, whatever that is. With a 3 amp charger and you have a 12 amp battery, it can take approximately 4 hours to fully charge that battery. And lithium is accurate because it charges at the full charging rate all the way throughout. Where still lead acid battery chargers start at that peak of 3 amps, but they start to slowly decrease. And so a lot of users will say, hey, my charger's flashing green, which shows it's not fully charged. That's because it gets down to a trickle charge. So once you get to about 90 or 95% full, it really throws a really small amperage at the battery. And so that last little bit takes a long time to charge, where lithium is not that way. It charges the full speed all the way throughout. So that's kind of the difference between an AGM battery, a deep cycle, and a lithium battery. Once again, none of those batteries are good to leave 3 or 4 months without charging. You can ruin a lithium battery just so you can ruin the other batteries. But they typically, lithiums are going to charge faster, are going to last more years. So it really kind of offsets the cost, where a deep cycle battery might last 2 to 3 years, a lithium battery might last somewhere in that 3 to 5 year range. So there's no real set time frame. It's going to depend on, how the charging habit is, the kind of unit you're using. So that's going to determine on when you need to replace your battery. And it's not like a car battery where you go out there one day and you're like, oh my gosh, it won't turn on. But what you're going to see is, yeah, I used to get 10 miles on a charge on this battery. Now I'm only getting like 4 miles before it's dead. So it's just going to slowly, your lights are going to go faster on the unit. And so you're going to slowly realize, okay, I probably need to change the battery. A lot of times people ask on the batteries too, I live up north, is there one battery that's better than others? So gel batteries are typically a little bit better for really, really cold conditions. But what the manufacturers say is if you do have a scooter or power chair and you leave it in your garage and it is going to be like freezing temperatures that night, they recommend plugging your unit in and letting your charger charge, because that's going to keep your battery from freezing. It's going to keep it warmer. So I do lots of users that are up north that do ask that often, and I do recommend, well, one, either bring it inside if you can, or two, plug your unit in, because that will keep your charge going throughout the night and keep your battery a lot warmer, so it will not freeze. Another common question we get too is like, why is there not air tires as much on chairs anymore? A lot of manufacturers got away from that when they got this foam-filled, non-marking type tire. Between adding suspension on a chair and then also having a tire that's going to have a little more squish to it, they realized that was a higher benefit than an air tire that potentially you can get a flat. So it's pretty common on a lot of these folding type units now too. They even have like a perforated tire that's got little holes all the way around it, so it has even more squish. Kind of like the concept of like a sneaker. A lot of sneakers nowadays have that used to come with an air pocket, in the back of these Nikes and different shoes. And then now if you look at these cloud shoes and these other fancy shoes out there now, they kind of have that gap in there that allows the foot to compress. Same concept with the tire. When you have that perforated hole in there, it's not going to squish to where you feel it as like, oh my gosh, it's wobbly, but it will take a little bit of that impact off the end user by having that perforated type tire. Another really common question we get is, are these things waterproof? I don't ever like to say something's waterproof, because then somebody's just going to leave it out in the rain. And I try to limit and be careful on what I say. I can tell you that I've gone to Pride's headquarters and I've watched the regulations and the testing they've done on their products. I mean, they take a power chair, they stick it up on this platform, and they have a hula hoop that goes all the way around it and it shoots water from every angle. And I think the testing in the market, I don't remember, I forgot which classification it has to pass, is I think 15 minutes of water of a certain PSI. They test it for 20 minutes with water. Then they test their products with acidic water, which would simulate kind of like urine, for 20 minutes. Then they let that dry and they go hit it again with another 10 or 15 minutes. So I know I talk a lot about Pride, but I just want to mention how they do their stuff and how they test it. I mean, they're just up here. I mean, their other companies are great, but I do believe the products that Pride puts out is top of the line, because they don't want to just do the bare minimum. They're exceeding it well, far and above, so that reputation and that brand is going to be around forever. Now, what I recommend to people is, it's inevitable, especially if you live down here in the South in Florida. It could be sunny and raining 10 minutes later. I recommend the main component that you want to keep dry is typically your joystick or your tiller if you're driving a scooter. So I know it might sound weird, but if you carry a small poncho or even like a little plastic bag, something that, hey, I got caught in a rainstorm and I was in it for 30 seconds before I was able to get to safety or somewhere dry, that alone would help protect it. So some type of clear bag. I've seen on Amazon even like a joystick cover that people make that kind of goes over the joystick. But once again, water can eventually seep into anything. So you don't want some, I see all the time. I see people put scooters and power chairs on the back of a vehicle, going down the road with no cover on it in Florida, getting wet, and they're just asking for trouble. I mean, it's eventually water can seep into almost anything. So I would not call anything waterproof, but I could tell you a lot of the technology that's coming on the market is making it more water resistant, just because they understand that it's not feasible for everybody to stay out of the elements all the time. Another question I get asked quite a bit too is like, can I take stuff on an airplane? So almost everything can go on an airplane as long as the batteries are approved, all the way up from a high-end, heavy-duty, quantum or permobil type chair. Now, you do need to call the airlines before you're going to get on the flight and let them know what you're bringing, because they have to be aware of it. And I think it has to be over a certain size plane, but standard planes, unless it's like a puddle jumper, should be able to take pretty much anything. Now, steel lead acid and gel batteries, it does not matter what size. They can be as big as the batteries can be, which is typically a 75 amp type battery. Those are fully approved for all types of transportation. What you have to worry and look out for is when you're getting more of these folding type units, because it has a lithium battery inside the unit. And lithium batteries, they base it currently right now off of watt hours. And watt hours is your voltage times your amperage of your battery. I think it's just under 12 amps on a 24 volt battery is what's approved for cruises, planes, trains, things like that. And so if you are buying a product from us, a lot of these units will have either or battery option. And now there are some companies too that have dual batteries in them that are both under that watt hours. And you can have two batteries that equal more than that 300 watt hours, but as long as each one is individually under the 300 watt hours, you would be approved for all types of transportation. So some companies were like, yeah, well, we'll just put two batteries on there and you can swap batteries from one side to the other, or you can buy a spare battery. But once again, there's a couple scooters out there that are lithium that are going to be above that 100 watt hours, but those would be kind of questions we would ask you if you're looking for something from us, of where you're going to be using it. Are you traveling? Are you doing this? So that we can make sure we're getting you a battery that is going to be approved for where you're going with your unit. Let me see what other questions I have over here. We get questions all the time too that people ask us as well. That's, hey, can I drive this on the sidewalk? I mean, if you're buying an FDA Class 2 medical device, you shouldn't have any issue driving it. The only time you might have an issue is if you buy like a really big recreational scooter, like a Wrangler, or like a Raptor 2 by Pride. There's some scooters that are not classified as handicap scooters. Even though I want to back up, and the Wrangler 2 that just came out, the Wrangler 2 Med, is a medical device. That prior version was not classified as a medical device, but they did classify this new one as a medical device, and they also made it to where it's a turnkey. When it ships, there's no assembly needed. But on most scooters in general, yes, you can drive on the sidewalk. Yes, you can go in the bike lane if a sidewalk is not available. We've just had that question from time to time. And like I said, I mean, it's obviously ultimately up to your local jurisdiction. But in general, if it's a handicapped unit, you can go anywhere that you could walk or ride a bike. So hopefully that answered that question on where can I use the unit. Now, I do want to say there are other accessories coming out soon on the market by Pride Mobility. Eventually, they are going to be coming out with, I believe, like a full type canopy and other types of things for more like protection. Currently on the market, African makes a scooter that does have a canopy. I think the C version and the S version can have a full canopy, and then you can actually get rain shields on the side. So if you were saying, hey, I know I'm driving all the time in rain, if you told us that, we'd probably recommend one of those scooters to you, because you're pretty much fully protected from all elements if you had the full canopy and the rain shields. I even saw they came out with one recently that's actually a solar panel canopy. So as long as you're driving under a certain speed up to a certain distance and you have X amount of time in the sunlight, you would never have to charge your batteries. So that's pretty cool as well, what they're coming on the market. We also get a lot of questions too. Hey, can I put lithium batteries in my non-lithium unit? Anything's possible, and some people do it, but I will tell you, if the unit is not designed to have lithium batteries, it will not give you a true reading on your gauge. You have to check it based on voltage and other things. So yes, you can do it, but I would tell you it voids your warranty if you're making any change on the unit. So if you are out there and you're thinking about trying to make that change, just a heads up, I would not recommend doing it if you're still within that warranty period, because then if you do have some other different type of issue and they find out there's lithium in there when they send a tech out to your location, your warranty would be voided. So do be careful if you do have, you want to make some kind of modification to your unit. I would make sure you do it once the warranty is no longer intact. So I see we're coming up here right to about an hour. I don't know if there's any other questions. I kind of gone through everything that I see over here on the chat board. I'll leave it open for another 30 seconds to see if any other question pops up. But once again, I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I do want to kind of make this a monthly type thing. So once again, I'll send this out in a newsletter a couple of days ahead of time and kind of pre-schedule it out so that we can, get more exposure for it. But if you do sign up for our newsletter, or you do go down below on our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button with the little bell symbol, it will notify you when we're doing different things as well. So once again, I really appreciate everybody's time in here. And once again, if anybody has any questions outside of what I mentioned on here, feel free to shoot us an email at info@marcstability.com, and I'd be glad to answer any other questions that I have. All right, thank you guys, and have a wonderful day.